Okay, moving on to thing three in today's episode of Washington in Focus Daily. We have one week of numbers from Let's Go Washington for the initiative that hopes to repeal the recently passed and signed into law income tax in the state of Washington. The numbers are record breaking. We found out this morning that more than 92,000 Washington voters have signed petitions for the initiative to repeal the new income tax in 1 week. So that was the launch date to the first week numbers that have been totaled and turned in. Of course, you've got other petitions that are out there because you can get on their website and order petitions to be sent to you, and then you get your own at your church or your neighborhood or wherever, and then send those back into Let's Go Washington. But the ones that they have tallied up in that first week are already over 92,000. Again, it's a record breaker. Not a surprise though for backers of the repeal effort. This is what they expected would happen, just kind of based on public sentiment since this bill was signed into law. And I spoke earlier this month with Darren Littell with Let's Go Washington. And at that point, even before they had launched the initiative drive, he said they were being overwhelmed with folks saying, I want to get involved.
The response to the initiatives this year is unlike anything we've seen before. Last year we did Initiative 2066, which stopped the natural gas ban. And at that time, it felt like there was an overwhelming amount of support, but it's truly unprecedented. Every day when we go out and talk to people, we hear more and more stories of folks that are concerned that this is going to affect them, that this tax is going to be expanded, that they are already have plans to move out, and they say, look, I'm not going to be paying this tax right off the bat, but I know eventually it's going to come for me. And so I either need to get out or I need to do something. And so how can I help? How can I sign up? What can I do? And so, we've got thousands of people who have signed up already to receive petitions, which is more than we've ever had before in any of the other initiative signing campaigns we've done. So we're pretty excited about the enthusiasm out there, and we're going to continue to build on it and let people know, eventually they're going to need to vote yes to stop the income tax, and look forward to being successful in November.
Now, Washington Governor Bob Ferguson posted on X this morning in reference to the support the initiative has received so far. Basically said, yeah, this is great. Voters are going to have a chance to weigh in. But then he went on to say, one more thing voters should know. I found this interesting. So long as I'm governor, I will veto any attempt to lower the threshold or raise the rate of this tax. We are asking those who make the most to pay a little more and providing relief to workers and small businesses. Let's keep it that way. Now, that is interesting because during the legislative session, during every debate on this, whether it was at a public hearing or whether we were attending media availabilities for those backing the income tax, we asked over and over again, will you put into this bill that the threshold won't be lowered? It'll only be folks that it'll stay the millionaire's tax. It's not going to be for somebody who makes 250,000 or $500,000. You're not going to lower it. And we were repeatedly kind of pushed off saying that's not for us to decide. Future legislators can't be bound by what, we determine. So this was the first time that the governor said this. Now, you can read into that what you will. It's likely going to be right about the time he's up for re-election that this is likely going to be going to the state Supreme Court, assuming the initiative effort is not successful or that voters decide that they like the income tax come November if the measure does qualify. So interesting though, but this was the first time the governor has come out and said he would not support a lowering of the threshold. And then a couple other numbers I want to put up for you from Let's Go Washington. And Brian Haywood posted this on X. So the actual number of signatures for the effort to repeal the income tax in 1 week was 92,780. They need they need nearly 309,000 to qualify for the November ballot. Recommended number of signatures to account for mistakes and duplicates is 380,000, but they're hoping to get 400,000 or more. And 700,000 signatures would be the number needed to break the state record for most signatures turned in. So June 20th is the deadline. They want people to turn those back in, and July 2nd is the date they'll have to drop all of those off at the office of Secretary of State Steve Hobbs so he can begin going over those petition signatures and seeing who's valid, who isn't. So that's 36 days until July the 2nd from today's date. But if the current pace of collections keeps up, it seems they will likely get this thing qualified. And then it will be up to voters in November to decide if they want the income tax or they don't. So that's it for today's episode of Washington in Focus Daily. Check out the Center Square Washington's page for these stories and more like it from my colleagues. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll tune again tomorrow.